Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure to be back with you and to, as we have done before, take a little virtual field trip to see part of the world that well, we just can't get to right now. But the primary goal is to highlight the European Atlas of Forest Tree Species. And we selected the, the section on the large and small leafed lime trees simply to tie in with our student speaker today. But it's an opportunity for you to look for this online and to see how it might work into your interests, things that you'd like to know about European trees. So this is just a couple of examples of really beautiful photographs that they have on their cover, and including a bit of the carbon cycle there at the right, where a trunk is decomposing and turning back into soil. So it just gives you an illustration of some aspects of trees and all their beauty. So next slide. One of the fun things for me is that I don't know a lot about some of these topics that I'm discussing with you, including the word chorology was new to me. But this is some maps from the section on Europe's small and large leaf lime trees, and showing their distribution as in green is where they are native, and with larger dots for where they really are very concentrated. And so the small leaf on the left and the large leaf on the right have different ranges and obviously different temperature sensitivities. They don't tend to like it being super cold, and they don't tend to like it being super hot, is one thing that you could take away from this, or hot and dry at the very least. So just an illustration of the kind of insight that you'll get if you go to the European Atlas of Forest Tree Species and check it out. Next slide. And another illustration of just kind of the beauty of these trees, and also have to mention that is these standalone trees, which are easiest to measure with the clinometer, and we'll see a couple other examples as we go through this. Some of the detail that's in the article that I'm excerpting is got some fun facts basically, including the coppicing was another term that I was not familiar with, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. But basically, a long-term woodland management strategy that is been identified in historic logs even, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. Some interesting things to know about the small leafed lime here. And next slide. And there's a large leaf, also another excellent candidate for measurement for globe trees, if anybody can, of course, get to Slovenia. Really pretty sizable trees, 30 to 40 meters in height, and beautiful straight trunks. They are excellent timber for many uses, and very long lived. So this is a pretty persistent part of the landscape across much of Europe. So the one thing that I learned from my father about growing trees was that you want to knock off the sprouts at the base of the trunk to maintain the main growth, and to assist the health of the tree. There's another word that I wasn't familiar with, epicormic. Again, just fun to explore these interesting resources. Next slide. So just a close-up of the texture of the trunk and also the shape and edges of the leaves. The word that was new to me here was cordate or heart shaped. Boy, that's a pretty attractive leaf and a pretty distinctive one too. So one suspects you'll be able to, those of you that are in Europe will be able to go out and find some lime trees and basically leverage this content pretty easily. Of course, doing it safely, considering the conditions we're all living under. At any rate, next slide. You know, the fact that you can make tea with the flowers is kind of cool. I'm not sure how valuable the seeds are for other purposes, but pretty clearly the trees reproduce pretty widely. But after the tree is already reached a pretty substantial maturity, so doesn't happen rapidly. I don't know, maybe somebody on this call knows if the tea made from the flowers actually does have anti-inflammatory properties. So just another aspect of the knowledge that's in this article. Next slide. And I don't know about you, but I used to like to climb trees when I was a kid. I don't do that anymore, but that sure looks like a great place to go vertical you know, see the world from up above. But there's all sorts of things that you can do with the tree itself. And obviously people have been using it for many purposes for literally hundreds, if not thousands of years. So, and of course, they apparently make a pretty good urban tree along the Unter den Linden, another word for a lime tree in historic Berlin. So you may have these in the cities where you live as well. Next slide. This is just a general wrap up. The tree species, as you might suspect from how widely it's distributed, is generally quite disease resistant. There are some things that can attack it over time, and obviously they do age out at some point. But the fact is they are a very long-lived part of the landscape, and so obviously have pretty good insect and disease resistance. And this is a little more detail on coppicing, and thanks to my fellow member of the core team for finding this Earth EOS article. But coppicing is a technique which involves repeatedly harvesting smaller trees every 30 or so years, but leaving an upper story of larger trees for longer periods. So this ensures a steady supply of both firewood and construction timber. This is based on oak trees, but it applies also to a number of other trees, including limes. Basically, what this does is by harvesting small trees and leaving an overstory, creates a distinctive tree ring pattern where the larger remaining trees have a growth spurt because there's less competition for nutrients in the soil, et cetera. And somebody actually went through and analyzed thousands of oak timbers for more than 1,000 years of these samples being available. And they basically indicate that this tree this forest management practice dates back to the 6th century. And I think that's a really cool thing to know about forest management, even though I can't imagine managing an oak forest. They're big, tough trees quite this way, but apparently there was enough social coordination that they could do this. So just another element of basically trees around the globe.